Welcome back to the show, Respectfully Inspired. Today I'm here with Reece O'Connor. Reece is a man of many talents. He is a recent college graduate trying to figure out life. Probably the most relatable of the suits he wears. He's also a videographer in Phoenix, Arizona. He has worked with huge companies such as NASDAQ and is currently the one who set up this incredible modern wisdom type podcast. Reece, go ahead and introduce yourself the way you want to be introduced.
Wow. Well, thank you. That was very kind. I haven't worked with NASDAQ quite yet, but very, very soon.
Oh, why did I think that? Someone must have given me some false information.
I mean, isn't the NASDAQ just a stock market?
Well, they're gonna think I'm an idiot for like 10 seconds in.
Very soon. But yeah, man, thanks for having me on. I'm glad we could set all this up.
Yeah.
I guess a little introduction is my name is Reece. Hello. Born and raised in Phoenix. Been here about to turn 24, so I've been here for almost 24 years now.
Wow.
Went to ASU down in Tempe, right nearby.
The Harvard of the West.
The Harvard of the West. Oh yeah. Spring Break University. You know?
Spring Break University. All right, so Reece, let me ask you a deep question.
Sure.
If this podcast went mega viral,
Yeah.
and people all over the world saw it, what value would you want to add to the world?
What value would I want to add to the world? So what I'm trying to do through the many things I find myself caught up in is just telling great stories through filmmaking. So I guess with my current skills and interests, I think just the most value I could bring to the world would be telling great stories through movies primarily. Love narrative, love comedies. Me and my friends like Dash who got connected or got us connected initially, is also in that space. You know, we just love writing, we love acting, and love just producing. And like you can see, we just have all the stuff at our disposal.
Yeah, dude, this quality is insane.
So I would say, definitely creating entertainment and allowing people to escape whatever they may be caught up on. Just through what we make and just having a good time. Mm-hmm.
You're one of the most talented filmmakers I've ever met. I was telling you.
Wow. Okay.
Off camera, I didn't personally pay $400, but I went to a podcast studio that was either $400 an hour, $400 an episode. My friend hooked it up. And
right.
I think this is nicer. And you just set this up on a whim in our buddy's house. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of filmmaking, though, and creation, what do you think about the transition from either creators showing up in films or the film world coming to creators? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? And
yeah, definitely.
like, do you think the next actors are creators, or do you think the next movies are going to be made by creators, or do you think there's going to be no merge in the world?
I think that the trend is definitely going towards creators having a lot more of a role in that whole ecosystem. Traditionally, this big studio system in Hollywood was doing great in the 20th century. Since the internet came out, we have so many more options to check into. Cable's dying, movie theaters are going away, the whole Blockbuster argument, right? It's just these new things and technologies come into play, and then they get ushered out once the next thing is there. And I think that thing right now that will continue to be prominent in the market is the internet, and primarily YouTube and those creators, along with short form creators on TikTok and Instagram. It just makes so much sense. I would assume, like, on a business end, if you have a creator with a following that has loyal fans and they engage with their content, that's just another asset and selling point on the studio's end or on the production company's end to have them be an actor or be a part of the process, because that's another avenue of distribution that they can do for advertising,
Yeah. So I have a friend who owns a company called Creator Camp, and he's been doing these events where he brings creators to a log cabin in the woods or a city in Switzerland. And the goal is to just bring creative storytellers together to make a more meaningful internet.
Yeah.
And while the events have done very well, they're not super profitable.
Yeah.
And they're trying to debate how can we keep this alive. The events are super inspiring. I've been to them myself, and everyone's telling them, oh, you should become like a influencer agency, like all these creators. You should manage the creators that come to your event, or you should like help them make products. And they're giving them all these basic ideas, but they just didn't feel like that was who they are.
Yeah.
And so after debating through a bunch of business ideas, the thing that they landed on just recently is that they want to turn their creator events company into a film studio. And so the way it would work is people who are making film content online, and even specifically like movie film, they're creators. So by creators, I mean their content's living on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram.
Right.
But they have the skill of a Hollywood director.
Sure.
But they don't have the connections of a Hollywood director. And basically what they want to do is empower those creators. And in the perfect world, it wouldn't just be the creator directors. It would be creator actors, creator directors, creator sound people, and fully produce movies from creators. Wow. Now you have the big hit with that idea, which is that you said the obvious thing, the distribution, which is that if everyone who's involved in making your movie has a social media following, you're less likely to make a flop.
Yeah.
But the problem they've identified in Hollywood is that Hollywood is getting stale. They're spending massive budgets, 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, and they're just pouring it into repeated ideas. Let's make another Marvel movie. Let's make another Harry Potter movie. Let's make another Disney animated movie. And it feels like nothing original is coming out of space, so they feel like they can enter themselves in. What do you think of that concept?
Yeah. There's two avenues to go down when it comes to what audiences want, in my opinion. At least from the studio side, you have the business end where that's why they're making these safe bets. They're making all these sequels because if it hit one time, it'll probably hit again.
Yeah.
Right. In other words, let's lower our risk. Let's take a safe bet because we want to make our money back. Right. We don't want to take a bunch of risks because that's just not practical from the business end.
Yeah.
So I think from that standpoint, okay, I could see the logic of why they would continue that cycle within Hollywood. But I think the market is shifting to where people are really connecting with small creators and individuals rather than the traditional setup of the celebrity or the studio system. I don't think one will completely replace the other, at least not in our lifetime. I mean, I really think they're going to merge. And it's going to be like more of a marriage rather than, one kind of flourishes and one just completely goes away.
Interesting.
I think they'll adapt, at least the established traditional studios right now. What you said about the creator camp, that's really interesting because I think people, especially in our demographic, age-wise, Gen Z, and give or take like 20 years on each end, there's going to be a flux of just trying to make their own way without having to go through, I guess, big agencies, studios, labels, because that was kind of my experience through college. I mean, I went into business school and then COVID hit, pivoted to film school. And that's when I started freelancing photography. I realized, okay, I'm building a skill right now that people value and they'll pay for. So this is kind of cool, but I don't really need any certificate or degree to be able to do this. I think at scale, that idea also applies. People are realizing, well, we can have alternative ways to fund our projects. Like maybe we make a creator camp and turn it into a studio. That way, then that camp is a vehicle for more creation at just a higher caliber.
One of the reasons the studios make those big bets, as you just listed, is because the idea is proven in the past. If a Star Wars movie broke box office records 20 years ago, why isn't it going to do the same now? And it often does, or it does pretty good. It's not going to flop.
Sure.
But A24 is on the rise, and they've had some smaller movies succeed. I never saw that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, but Apparently that
Oh my
movie.
God. Yeah. I watched like half of it.
Apparently that movie went crazy in theaters. But A24, as my friend at Creator Camp was telling me, they supposedly found a YouTuber. I can't remember his name, but I'll pop him up right here on screen. They found a YouTuber who had his own film series. It's obviously low budget. It's not like anything crazy, maybe 20-minute episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting like 5 million views on YouTube. And they basically just said, hey, we want to turn your YouTube series into a movie. We'll pay you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they're taking the idea of a concept that's proven on YouTube and saying, if people like this on YouTube, then they're going to like it on Moot.
Exactly.
Which I don't see why that won't happen at a bigger rate or continue to happen.
I completely agree. If I were to make a prediction, I don't see why YouTube doesn't also try to emulate some things of like what Netflix has. Like I think, because right, YouTube started with long form content, horizontal traditionally, and that was great. Then TikTok came out, then we started getting short form. Then that was suddenly the new normal. Like now everyone's doing it. At first I remember like, God, this is so weird. Like I don't want to watch a video like vertically. But then you fast forward a couple of years, like, okay, this is awesome. We're all, we all agree that this is works and we like it, you know? And I think the next step in that is kind of almost going backwards in a way where I think we're going to see a lot more episodic content. Almost maybe even like weekly series that creators could do. They can already do that. I just think YouTube should build out some infrastructure within their own platform to really generate that kind of side of things. I think that'd be really cool. Cause yeah, like all my friends, we make our little short films that are 4 or 5 minutes. We post it to YouTube, you know, it's our version of Netflix, you know?
What would you like when you spend all that effort on a short film, does it feel justifying to post it to YouTube, or what opportunities would you like to have when you make a short film?
Yeah. Personally, I love YouTube and that platform.
Me too.
I've been on it since, probably since I was 8, like on the family's computer.
Yeah.
You know, so I've been kind of locked in and grandfathered in, I guess. So regarding a short film, I'm biased towards, I love showing that because no matter where I am or whatever the occasion may be, you can always pull it up and show people in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. My friend Johnny, who I work with, he's a writer, director. He's very adamant on like the film festival route, which also has merit and value in it as well. I just want to do things fast, right? Get it done, get it out there, get feedback, see what the audience actually enjoys, learn your mistakes and how to get better. Because in my opinion, that's just so much more efficient of a workflow than doing, and there's nothing wrong with doing like film festivals, but if you have a project that you enter, you might have to like wait months to see like how an audience would react to it. When in the other time, okay, well you could be doing like one a month on YouTube and be growing that much faster just by learning what is working and what's not.
Are you familiar with the Wesley Wang?
Yeah. He dropped out of Harvard, didn't he?
So he put that everything except nothing. Then he posted it to YouTube, 4 million in a week or something.
And then life's changed. Like,
but the real life change is, I'm sure that's happened before. I'm sure I could go find a short film that's done that before.
Right.
But the life changing is that Sony said, let's find this kid and tell him to drop out and give him a major studio deal. Yeah. Which in the past if you made film on YouTube, you were just considered automatically a lower level.
You were just the YouTuber.
Yeah, you make film at a lower level. And now they're saying, no. The people are making awesome films online. Mm-hmm. I mean, if Sony's giving you a studio deal, he became the youngest film director in history with a major studio deal, I believe. Yeah. And if his movie does well, then the other studios are going to say, ka-ching, I want to find... Let's do that. It works. And I can probably pay a YouTuber less than I have to pay, some grand Hollywood... If it's going to funnel the same viewership, and you're right. Like director. If someone else is $1 million, but someone else is, I don't know. Yeah.
not a million.
So, I mean, it's a friggin' exciting space to be in.
I'm really excited for the future in the next couple of years ahead. Just because of what we do and what our goals are. It's an exciting point because, I mean, all the software and AI, all that technology, that progression is just crazy, which is definitely affecting our goals and what we want to do. So yeah, it's a really exciting time just to be a creator and make stuff.
Let me run an interesting phenomenon by you.
Yeah.
They said the first $1 billion industry. Well, I'm sure there's been a bunch in history, but the first technology $1 billion industry was the devices. So it was like the computer, the phone, the iPhone, the Mac. And then after they sold all that stuff, I mean, obviously they still sell it, but that was like the thing. Everyone wanted an iPhone. Everyone wanted a computer. Computers used to be big. They got smaller and smaller.
Right.
We obviously still sell those. But then the next $1 billion industry wasn't the computer or the phone. It was the website built on the computer and the phone. It was the Google. It was the Chrome, the Safari, the Yahoo.
Yep.
So then you have these next $1 billion industries, which are built on top of the last $1 billion industry, which is the computer. And then after that, the next $1 billion industries are built on the code, which is now you have Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat being built on essentially the code that was the websites before. So now you go from the device to the code to the app on the code.
Yep.
And people are saying the next $1 billion industry, like, take a guess. What follows the app?
It just seems like the creator.
The creator follows the app. So, I mean, we're already seeing it with how much people can make through AdSense and brand deals. But what I find really interesting is specifically creator products. Because let's take something like Mr. Beast chocolate Feastables.
Yeah.
I'm not the hugest Mr. Beast fan in the world, but if I'm going to a Walmart and I'm also not a huge chocolate fan, but like, let's say I'm going to buy a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
There's no reason, if they tasted the same quality, like if Hershey's and C's and Mr. Beast Feastables all tasted the same quality, I'm always just going to choose the one I know.
Yep.
And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is because I can put a face to the name, but two, they can be held accountable. Like, let's say Hershey's spits in my chocolate bar or something. What am I going to go like tweet at? I don't know who the CEO of Hershey's is. Like, I could try to cancel him. I maybe make a movement. But the thing is, if Mr. Beast puts something messed up in his chocolate bar, you know his fan, he's going to be held accountable. I mean, look at Prime.
Oh, yeah.
Who I don't know what's true with these forever chemicals and whatnot, but anything Prime does, they're being held accountable. Yeah. And so to me, it just makes sense that you have better marketing, a face you can trust, someone to be held accountable. I don't see why half of all products in stores in 10 years aren't going to be creator products.
I think it'll be a net positive for the consumer because they'll have that immediate association, which that's mostly a pro on the producer side. But for the consumer, yeah, you'll have that added accountability because it's not just going to be some logo and brand you're throwing your complaint at, but it's going to be a face, somebody with that's putting their personal brand on the line, right? So unless they don't care about their personal brand, they're probably going to hopefully have to act ethically and make good products that people want, you know? I think the personal brand, I mean, since social media was really adopted, has just become like everything in a few ways. It's just such an efficient way of showing what you're about and how you present yourself, because that will just save you maybe that much more time on an introduction with somebody, right? Or even just doing podcasts like this. I always say to my clients that I work with, or to just friends that want to create, that doing a podcast is such a good idea, because even if it's not getting 1 billion views on the internet, as long as the right people are seeing it, they're now seeing a part of you that they otherwise wouldn't see. They see how you think, they see how you articulate, they see just how you operate, right? And video and the internet is feeling that kind of connection. So it's weird because I feel like we're in a place where a lot of people are lonelier rather than they were maybe in the past. because maybe all they're doing is spending their time on the internet and on YouTube, you know? So that's like an interesting part of it where I think people need to learn how to like manage their time. At least for me early on, I think I got way too into it. I spent maybe a little bit too much time watching videos.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah, right. Doom scrolling. Yeah. Didn't they chose that as like word of the year, I think, recently. But,
I don't, dude, it's such a difficult concept for me because if someone asked me, do I think the internet has been a net positive on society?
yeah.
I would have to say no.
Yeah.
But if they asked me, do you think the internet's been a net positive on your life? It would be a resounding yes, because when I was in high school, I was a bit lonely.
Yeah.
And I actually related more to the YouTubers I watched online than the friends I had in school. And so they kind of helped me with my loneliness. And then I knew from a young age, I want to go be that light that I had in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And through creating, I pursued a bunch of different exciting things, especially back when I had a vlog. I used to always say, I don't vlog because I have an exciting life. I vlog so that I can have an exciting life. Like if you're vlogging once a week and yeah, like if you're LeBron James and you have a crazy life, you might be like, it would be smart to vlog this. But the average person goes, oh no, I'm just a regular college student, but because I have a vlog, let's go jump off a bridge into a water, not suicide.
Right.
And so I would seek out exciting things. And even as I've switched from the vlog to the podcast, I've adapted that mentality. And because I haven't even received my first YouTube check, although it's coming, which is exciting after 5 years. But because of the podcast I've done, Red Bull, Can You Make It? Because of Red Bull, Can You Make It? I'm here in this house. We're filming this podcast.
Yeah.
Through Red Bull, Can I Make It? I got to see Monaco, Berlin, Germany. I emailed an entrepreneurial hero of mine who I would have never emailed him if it wasn't for the creating and the creator world. But because of creating in the creator world, I emailed this entrepreneurial hero of mine, and he sent me to walk El Camino de Santiago, which is one of the most famous walking trails in the world in Spain.
Wow.
And I was counting the other day, someone like me who has very, very minuscule subscribers. I've never made money on YouTube yet. So no clout, no money. In the past 2 years, I've gone to, I want to say 8 countries through opportunities that arose, and I didn't pay for any of them. And so like this creating, it's not only took me around the world, it's introduced me to people like you. And I think loneliness is not just from a lack of relationships. I think it's a lack of relationships with people who understand you. And so like even, I don't know if you're in a fraternity. I know the kids here in this house were in a fraternity, but
Yeah, I was.
when I was in my fraternity, I was a vlogger, and I just didn't feel like I related to the people there. It's not that they were bad people, but it was like I was surrounded by a bunch of people, but I still felt lonely because they didn't do what I did. And then as I leaned into creating and church and things that truly represent me, I started attracting friendships in the same field. And that's when I really started eliminating that loneliness. But something I think about through all this is that the internet has helped me so much. I could list 100 cool stories and say how things have played out for me, but I'm just like, I don't want to create content that makes someone else sit on their phone and feel more lonely.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I balance that? How do I use social media to help people be benefited from it the way that I was, and not be held victim to it the way the majority of people are? And I don't know if I have a good answer yet.
Yeah, I think that what we choose to put out has a lot of weight to it, because somebody could be watching and putting that much more energy into it that we don't anticipate, right? Maybe they become a huge fan that we didn't realize. Our words and what we post do have a significant effect, even though it is just tapping a screen at a point in time. Yeah, I wonder how it'll evolve, like regarding connection, you know?
Think about the subscribe button. Back in the day, if you grew up on YouTube, then you know this like me. You used to open the YouTube app and you would go to your subscription feed. And the subscription feed, you weren't following people on shorts. They didn't exist yet. The subscription feed represented who you cared enough about. I remember very specifically, I personally was super hesitant with who I subscribed to.
Yeah.
When someone made it my subscription feed, I probably subscribed to 20, 30 people, and I watched 75% of them. So it was like creating a lasting relationship. I show up for this person in my subscription feed. And now subscribers is a vanity metric because it's all warped by shorts, because if someone has 10 million short subscribers versus someone who has 10 million long form subscribers versus someone who has 10 million podcast subscribers, they're all completely different value. But regardless of that, the listening habits tend to be open YouTube, go to your homepage. If a video is good enough, you watch it, which is great in the sense that an unknown creator has more opportunity to succeed than ever, because if you make good enough content, it can go viral. But it's bad in the sense that there's way less stability in the career. In the past, if you had 1 million subscribers, you had a career and you were probably good for life. Now, you have 1 million subscribers, you're gonna be killing it for 2 months, and if you drop your quality, you're gonna just disappear off the face of the earth. And so that's one concept I think about. But even when we tie that back to loneliness and like the general population, when I think about shorts and reels on Instagram, it's like I personally refrain from doing poppy text and Subway Surfers on the bottom half of the screen, because I feel like even if I'm saying something wise or insightful, I feel like I'm doing that at the expense of giving someone ADHD. So here, come watch my content. I'm going to give you ADHD. And part of the reason I'm very pro vlog and meaningful content on the internet, but part of the reason I switched to like podcast long form is because I feel like it's where I can be the most authentic version of myself. And I think that authenticity inspires the most. And I think that when I was in high school and I watched the other vloggers or YouTubers, because of what we just talked about with the subscriber feed, the relationships tended to be a lot more authentic. It's not because the creators now are bad or inauthentic. It's because the platforms have forced that into the system.
Yeah.
Because if you have to succeed and you don't have stability in your subscriber count, then you're going to always say, okay, I could be a little bit more authentic here, or I could be a little bit safer with my editing choices.
Yeah.
And you see the people like Mr. Beast, who is I think he's an incredible YouTuber. I think he's very passionate about what he does, but he had to hyper lean into the way he edits this way, because that is what kept his videos showing up even outside of the subscriber feed. So it's a really interesting place we're in the internet, where I think you have more opportunity than ever to succeed, because good content can just go viral. But because there's not stability, there's a little bit lack of authenticity. Does that make sense, everything I just laid out?
No, that makes complete sense. Like in the early stages of YouTube, I feel like the creators that would post then, like not that it wasn't like thoughtless, but I feel like it was a lot more like authentic, or just doing it because they wanted to do it. Where it's been gamified now. Like you have click-through rates and average view duration. You have all these stats that you can look at, you can study. Like, okay, at minute 30, okay, I see a dip here. How can I fix that for the next time? And then you kind of end up at a place where you have like a Mr. Beast style. You know, like that style works because he's optimized for all those stats. And I think when you get caught in that world and you have subscribers as a metric of success, for example, it puts you in a weird spot, because what are your values? What are you trying to put out there? What's the brand you're trying to create? What kind of audience do you want to have? I think those are really important questions for creators to make sure that they, one, stay around for the long term, and because as fast as you come up, I feel like as fast as you can fall as well. But when you take an approach of, I want to actually build a community, a digital community for the long term that I can foster and grow with and do, because your value should just be wanting to create and have that ecosystem to do. And if you get to a point where you're monetizing, great, then you can make it sustainable and consistent. But Yeah, I think a big question for like all of us to ask is like, why are we doing this? Do we want the numbers? Do we want the fame, status, or like all these stuff? Or is it something else? Because that stuff is just superficial. It's not going to last. And at least with some of the people I've worked with in the past that have had like, you know, alternative views on this, they can do their own thing, you know, and that's a good thing, because then you kind of know who is aligned with what you want to do. Because like yourself, I'm trying to grow my YouTube as well. I mean, I'm just at the start of it, you know, so we got a long mountain to go in the scope of like being a YouTuber and a creator that earns, you know. But even with what we've done thus far, it's not only has it got us connected, it's gotten you like a bunch of adventures and travels. It's fueled my business as well. I've got to do podcasts and other like brand videos for companies that otherwise I wouldn't have gotten, because they wouldn't have seen it otherwise, you know? So it has so many like indirect returns other than, just having a huge subscriber count.
There's something you said though that I want to pause on, which is you gave this advice in your little spiel there that is so common. And I think it's really good advice. It says, ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But I hear that so much. I hear it over and over. My buddy said it in the car today. Like, I hear it over and over and over again. And the thing I'm beginning to think about that question is, do people answer it honestly?
Yeah.
And if so, do they subconsciously answer it dishonestly? Like, for example, there was a recent poll. I can't remember what the age of the kids were, but the poll was, what is your dream job? And it was for, I don't know, grade school, middle school, or high school, one of them. And the vast winner was, I want to be a YouTuber.
Oh, yeah.
However, when YouTube was around 10 years ago, and the poll was also done then, the winner was, I can't remember, I want to be an actor or a musician.
Yeah.
So, and then I can't even imagine what it was before that, but given these two studies in mind and just thinking about it, so if it went from an actor to a YouTuber, does that mean all the kids who were born just randomly are way more passionate about making videos than acting? I don't think so. I think what that shows is that subconsciously society has deemed something of the coolest status. So if you grew up in the movie era and you're seeing all these heroes on the big screen, and maybe you're not thinking to yourself superficially, oh, I want to be famous and make boatloads of money. Maybe you're like, dude, I just really like Tom Cruise, or I just really like this guy. And then, but subconsciously, the reason you like them is because they're being glorified by society, and that's everyone's desire is kind of to be glorified. Whoever you want to be glorified by, I don't know, the kids who bullied you, or the girl you like, or your boss, or whatever. Yeah. And in that time period, the acting seemed like the coolest way to do so. And now it's like, I hear more people than ever tell me they're passionate about social media. But even when I started 5 years ago in 2019, which is not that long ago, I went to a YouTube high school. Half of my in my graduating class, like half the kids in the Hype House or left and founded the Hype House. Like, I went to a very
YouTube university. Wow.
But even then, when I started my YouTube, I was in the vast minority. So in the last 5 years, all these people have suddenly become super passionate about social media. And I'm not doubting them. I don't think they're I don't think they're these fake people who are like, I want to make boatloads of money and be famous. But I think subconsciously, we live in a career identity culture. When you meet someone in America, you ask them your name, and the second question, what do you do? Yeah. And so I think right now, social media is that outlet to being glorified and I think just even subconsciously, you can see it in that survey. I think that is the biggest motivation for creation. And I think, like, when we talk about the old days of YouTube, my friend Anne-Marie, who was the first college vlogger, she said, I used to treat YouTube, it was a digital diary for me. And I think when she started, there was no money on YouTube. Like, if you built a huge following, you could sell them shirts or whatever, but it was not. So you really did it as a diary. And now it's like, even people with the most noble hearts, I like to imagine I have a noble heart entering this, but I'm still thinking, since I started 5 years ago, when can I like fund? I don't think of it in like, oh, I need to be rich way, but I think of it in it would be really cool to do something I'm passionate about and make money doing it. But there's been a lot of times in this 5-year journey where I've confronted myself and I'm like, do I even like the content I'm making? And not just from the standpoint of I'm not good enough to make it great yet, but just like a lot of times I'm just like, dude, I think like I liked what I was making, and then I saw someone who was succeeding and I tried to copy them, and now I kind of hate what I'm making.
Yeah.
And dude, I know I'm dropping so much on you, but the other thing with this whole concept is my friend Max Reisinger, he says content is kind of like food.
Yeah.
Like if you go, like Instagram Reels doom scrolling is like going and getting fast food and candy at 7-Eleven. You eat it, tastes great in the moment,
Yeah.
and then you feel sick later.
Yep.
In like an incredible short film that you watch on YouTube is like a good meal that gives you energy and inspires you to like get up and go.
Yeah.
Like that bowl I ate here yesterday, like I felt great. I wanted to podcast after that. Today I ate pizza and I didn't feel good after. And it's like, how do running away from the internet can't be the solution, because if all the meaningful, authentic people run away from the internet, then you're just going to leave a bunch of bad food online. But it's like, how do I serve good meals that make people feel inspired and leave people wanting to create or just live their best life? I don't know. I mean, I just dropped so much on you, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I'm curious. How did you, or how and when did you figure out that you wanted to do this?
Well, it changed because in high school, I was lonely, I was semi-bullied, and I felt closer to the YouTubers I watched than the people at my school. And I remember thinking, dude, if I can be this light that I'm watching to other high schoolers when I'm older, I was like, that's what I want to do. I don't know if that's any longer my motivation, because the whole YouTube platform is just a different game. Now, I think I'm still there in the fact that I really care about loneliness, and I really care about making content that doesn't give people ADHD and hurt them. But I think now more so I've identified, like, I think I was using that self-glorification, like I had a noble cause at first, which was I want to be the light that was the light to me.
Yeah.
But then my noble cause turned into, I think I just want to be glorified. Like I want attention on me. I was a little bit bullied and I wasn't attractive in high school. And I was like, dude, if I'm a YouTuber, I subconsciously, I think I'm going to improve in these areas. And then I think I've changed from that to kind of be like, because of my ego, I've convinced myself that I'm passionate about filmmaking. But the truth is, like, you're genuinely passionate about filmmaking. And I know that because you can set up this. I've been on YouTube for 5 years and I don't know how to set this up because I'm not passionate about filmmaking. And I try to convince myself I was, because I thought that was a key to succeeding on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so when I sat down, I actually did, I read Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights book. And
I want to read that.
It's really good. And I did, he came out with a course and I did it. And in the course, it's a very common exercise. He called it the honey hole, but it's basically, what am I good at? What value can I provide to the world? And what do I love doing?
Yeah.
And I realized that I've been just trying to convince myself I'm super passionate about editing and filmmaking because I want to be a YouTuber. But I realized when I looked back on why did I post 3 vlogs a week for years?
Yeah.
Why did I post these videos? Never had anything to do with me being passionate about filmmaking. It was always me being passionate about sharing experiences. And because, like I said earlier, I vlog so that I can have an exciting life. I would bring the people in my dorm together. I would bring my friends together. The shared experiences came as a result of the content I was creating. So I realized, well, I'm really passionate about bringing people together. And then I'm really passionate about having conversations. And the vlog has unlocked that for me.
Yeah.
But so then when I thought, what is the better fit for me based on what I actually love to do? Conversating and bring people together. I dropped out of college thinking that, oh, I'm staying up late and I have homework and I'm not sleeping and I'm sacrificing all this time. If I drop out of college, I'm going to make it big on YouTube because I'm going to work harder. But what happened is I dropped out of college and I left my 7 dorm mates, and I had more time than I had ever had in my life, but I felt less passion, less drive, and posted less videos than I ever have because I lost the thing that was important to me, which was the relationships and the conversations.
Yeah.
So when I had more time to do what I wanted and I took a big leap of faith, I was just so unmotivated. And that's when I realized, dude, I need to stop trying to convince myself I'm this passionate filmmaker that I've labeled through YouTube and find what Matthew McConaughey calls a honey hole. And I said, if I start a podcast, at the very least, every guest episode will be shared with someone.
Yeah.
And I can bring people together. And dude, I felt so much better about what I'm doing now. But the thing is, I would have never gotten to what I'm doing now if I didn't just try. Like, I did vlogs, I did reaction videos, I did music for a little bit. I even did some stand-up comedy. I signed up for an Actors Access. It's like I used to like hate myself for my shiny object syndrome, because I would always tell myself, oh, if I just didn't try a bunch of different careers and I just vlogged this whole time, I'd be a big YouTuber.
Yeah.
But now I look back on my shiny object syndrome and I'm like, no, because the age I was, it made a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. If you're going to commit to a career for your life, you should enjoy it. And I had convinced myself I wanted to be a YouTuber, which I guess this podcast is on YouTube. I'm still a YouTuber, but I'm way more passionate about conversation, but I wouldn't have gotten here if I didn't go through that shiny object syndrome.
I felt the same way leaving school, because I was in a house with 5 other guys, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you're always bombarded with, people coming and going, conversations all the time. And once you're out of that environment, it's like, what now? Oh man, there's no 4 other people banging on the door and finding things to do. And I feel like myself, I got really lucky, because for some reason I had this interest, which just kind of turned into an obsession for a little bit, of just trying to learn everything, which is just filmmaking and making just fun videos. It's almost my North Star, where I can always hang on to that, because I know that no matter what, even if I'm by myself, I will be able to entertain myself, and I'll know how to learn something new, what to look up, something that I can make daily strides at to get better. And for some reason, I always had a camera around. When I was a little kid, with my parents, they had those like mini DV tapes, so I got my first interactions with those. And I think I must have been like 6 or 7 at the time, like a pretty young age. And that was a pivotal moment, because I got to, have it feel in front of you, just being able to learn this new type of like hobby at the time. And then I remember another moment where I don't know if you've ever had this kind of thing, but there'll be like these moments in childhood where I feel like sometimes you can kind of just feel the software update in your brain, be like, okay, yep, I am, I'm doing something new, and I know that I'm doing something new. But that happened when I think I had like these like army figures. I would always love to set up these big battle scenes. And in my head, I would just like think about like, what would the context be? What are they fighting over? Where are they fighting? Who's the bad guy? Who's the good guy? And I remember one day I was like, whoa, that was actually really fun. Like, I just had a half hour pass, and I was literally just by myself, just playing with these toys. And there's this whole movie going on in my head. Like, that's kind of cool. And I didn't realize that until I was like older. I'm like, man, like, yeah, I would just be by myself a lot, just playing with these toys and creating these stories out of it, and then I would film it. I'd make these stop motion, like Lego movies, or you name it. So I feel lucky that I feel like I kind of stumbled into it, because I was just mindlessly doing these things, which I then realized, well, crap, that's just filmmaking. That's just making movies. That's making videos, So naturally found that transition. And I feel like everyone's trying to get that thing that doesn't make them tired when they put a lot of energy towards it. In fact, it gives you more energy. It's a really weird thing. for you, it's probably conversations and meeting new people and getting to learn more things about humanity from individuals. That kind of keeps that fire going. I think everybody has that fire in them that can keep themselves propped up during a hard time, motivate them to get out of the house to go meet people or meet new people, right? For me, I can just take my camera and go out shooting, and maybe see somebody else that's shooting or go introduce myself.
Well, there's something I've noticed. I'm curious if you've noticed this too, which is I've found many different passions because, I think a person's passionate about 2 to 3 things. I might say I'm very passionate about podcasting,
right,
working out, eating healthy, God. Those are like my main things I'm passionate about. But I found, because I've turned a lot of passions into attempted careers, that even the most passionate thing, which I would probably say podcasting I really love, even the most passionate thing, when you take that step to make it a career, it still gives you energy, but it becomes a little bit draining.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
That is the payoff. And dude, again, while I don't think I'm a passionate filmmaker, I do think I was passionate about vlogging. And vlogging to me, when I vlogged, not as a career, it gave me more energy. And when I vlogged as a career, it drained energy naturally, as stuff does. But comparing the way it went from energy to drained energy, podcasting had the least resistance. So
interesting.
When I thought about when I experimented with which passions to make my career, it was actually the ones that I could handle the draining parts the best. And so even I always talk about, it's a really weird phenomenon when I get on a podcast, but when I get on a podcast and I have a great conversation like this one, I'll feel so amped, but I'll also feel so drained after.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, after stuff like this, I always feel like, oh my God, I feel like I need to take a nap. Because it takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort into these things. But I mean, that shows 2 things. It shows that you care.
Yeah.
You actually want to see this through and make it as best as you possibly can, which is important. I think, thankfully, we're in a position where we can have that, we can put that energy into these lanes and see these things. And not 100% of the time is it going to be sunshine and rainbows. Nothing is, it is, there are parts of it that are laborious and that you need to put a lot of grit and work into, which, aren't fun, but are necessary to doing anything. Nothing comes easy. It takes a lot of effort. That's why I think having that passion is just, it'll get you through when those hard times come, when you're just exhausted. You don't want to do it anymore. You feel like you've said your last breath, just remembering that. And that's also why I said it's my North Star. It's something I can just cling on to, that I always remember when I'm ever, having those difficult moments.
Well, I think the reason for that phenomenon is because content can only become your career, or in a broader sense, passion can only become your career when it serves someone. Because if it doesn't serve, and not yourself, if it doesn't serve someone, then there will be no money involved. And for example, this podcast, I want to keep it as pure and authentic as possible. I want to have a great conversation. I'm parlaying off what you're saying. You're parlaying off me. But still, as a podcast host who's done this 95 times, I want to make something great for them. And not even like a fake way, like, oh, we need to stage a conversation with this, but in like I love you and I love my audience. So if, let's say, you were to just ramble on about something, I would almost feel like it's my responsibility to come and try to make that episode as best as possible. And I think that's like the...
Might need to do that a lot with me.
No, I actually think you have a really good grip on starting and stopping. But even if you take your Army example as a kid, it's fully energy giving because you're not expecting to serve someone else out of it. Yeah. Now, is there a potential that your brother walks in and he wants to know what's up with your made up Army game? Sure, but it's fully energy giving. And my friend Ryan Ing talks about he talks about this, the purest form of art. He says that the purest form of art is like the dad who has a 9-to-5 job, who has a family, wife and kids, and then in his free time after 5 p.m., after spending time with his wife and kids, he goes into his garage and he plays with his Lego sets or whatever, or he messes with his car. And as he builds his Lego figurines in his garage, he's never going to sell it. He's never going to put it online. At best, he'll show his wife or kids once a week. Yo, come check out the new Lego sculpture. And they're just going to be nice and be like, so cool, you friggin' nerd, you know, like, or whatever. And that's like, you know, that art gives him energy because there's literally nothing in it for him. He's losing time.
Yes.
He has to choose some time to do that over his wife and kids, and he has to do it outside of work time, and he'll never get, and there's people all over the world who have hobbies like this. They like feeding birds, they like woodworking, they like messing with their car. In a lot of these hobbies, they will literally gain nothing from it except that it gives them energy.
Right.
And I think that is so beautiful. It's like, and it's like, I wonder when our era grows up to dad age, will we be doing the same thing, or will we just be like, oh, wait, business opportunity, we got to put this online, we got to do this.
I know. I feel like I have to wear so many hats, but I mean, two in particular, like one hat. Okay, I'm the cinematographer, the photographer, the editor, doing, you know, making all these cool compositions and coloring them, and it's a whole art in that whole process. And then the other hat is the business end. Okay, how much are we making this month? How can we get the next one going? Are we locking in that client? Are they, you know, do they enjoy what I'm making? How can we make this click-through rate better for YouTube channel? It's a constant back and forth and a constant conversation with the two, you know. And I think that's good. I think if you're too lopsided on one way, well, one, if you're too artistic, okay, you got to pay the bills. You can't go hungry. But also if you're too business, and then I think that also leads you into kind of a brick wall in some ways. If you don't really have the systems in place or people around you to keep you, I guess, happy, for lack of a better term. But I mean, yeah, dude, we're just so lucky that we are able to do this. And like, I'm able to make filmmaking a career for mine. And like, that is my childhood dream. I'm so lucky to be able to do that. And balancing the business and the creative is, there's always something to do. I'm always having something to work at. Like, there's no time to, you know, not do anything but this, you know, like put your buckets of time into appropriate places. But yeah, it's just, we're very, very lucky. And,
there's a creator I follow, Arlen Moore, who said, I'm happier when I create more than I consume. And after he said that, I was like, wow, that's an interesting thesis. Seems like it could be right. And I started journaling every day. Like, it wasn't an exact ratio, like, am I consuming 1 hour of reels versus 1 hour of editing? But it was just like, I thought I would mark down days where I created more, where I got a lot done, and mark down days where I consumed more. And it was just across the board so much happier when I created more.
What's going on?
What's up?
You know, the food order.
So with that being said, we're doing a DoorDash or whatever the frick Dash handed his phone to Reece for. And I think...
priorities.
Go ahead, Reece. Just tell them your socials and where they can find you.
Yes. You can find me at Reece O'Connor on Instagram and YouTube. Go give me a like and a subscribe. I'll say thank you very much.
You have a short film coming out. Can you give them any details about that?
I do have a short film coming out. Yeah. It is called The Cigarette Files. It's a 1960s period piece. We were really inspired by Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and some Wes Anderson films like Grand Budapest Hotel, at least in like the cinematography department. It's a comedy. It's 15 minutes and should be coming out at around the new year. I don't have a specific date, but pretty
if
soon.
I have a date by the time this podcast goes live, then it will be on screen here and we'll tell you how to watch it. If not, I'm sure if you follow his Instagram or YouTube, it will be findable. Our other boy here has a Kazakhstan documentary coming out, which it's like medieval Olympic games that still go on to this day in Kazakhstan.
I'm so excited for that.
Hopefully there will be a screening in Phoenix, which if I don't think that'll be developed by this time, but if it is, it will be in the description. And yeah, thank you, Reece, for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Dude, thank you, Auzi. This is awesome. Good stuff. See you last, Kennedy.